Hello and welcome to the Own Your Divine Light show. This is season 5, and I am your host, Yarra Atlantica Miller, also known as Janet Miller. And the theme of this show is the divine human rising, recovering our sacred truth. This show is an exploration of the secret truths that have been concealed from us. We are letting go of the old system that no longer works for us and has held us back from becoming the divine humans we are meant to be. And today we are having the amazing, mystical, intuitive Maria Leonard, who will be sharing her divine truth with us so that together we can achieve the divine human rising. Welcome, Maria. So excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I'll tell you a little more about Maria. Maria Leonard is a spiritual growth coach, the founder of Life Scripting, a holistic healing and manifesting modality, which connects the power of breath work, energy healing, intuition, and mindset shift through the power of words. She is also an intuitive channeler of the Akashic Records to give guidance on your life path, your purpose, your deeper understanding of yourself, and to know what to heal and resolve in your lifetime. And I highly recommend her readings because I've had one and it's just incredible. And knowing what to heal, is to live a fulfilling life. So during her one-to-one sessions and her workshops, she has practitioner trainings and retreats, and she combines her life scripting. She teaches esoteric, psychological, and philosophical teachings and mindfulness. She is also passionate about connecting ancient knowledge with modern day scientific discoveries on epigenetics, neuroplasticity, sacred geometry, and psychology on birth scripts. And by using her intuitive gifts, her healing abilities, and more than 20 years of vast knowledge, she helps you see what's holding you back in life, giving you the tools to re-script your life blueprint in order to consciously create your heart's desires and accomplish your soul's purpose through self-mastery. That's incredible what you do, Maria. And so thank you again for being here. And, life scripting, you coined that. This is your term. This is a perfect, it's a great word. So how did that come through? I know you're always an intuitive. So let's start with, how did that intuition start? And then how did the life scripting come in?
So I've always been drawn to psychic readings, psychics, mediums since I was a child. I think both my parents were also very much drawn into it. So I would always go with them, visiting different people from different backgrounds, different abilities. And the biggest curiosity was, I need to understand what's happening in people's energy, in people's mind, and what is the unknown. So that curiosity always led me to understand I wanted to understand things from an esoteric perspective, because it felt so limiting just understanding psychology, just understanding things that are for the logical mind. So I would say my first experience came in 2012 when I realized that I have an ability as well, where I was doing a breathwork session, and I started seeing images. I saw my late grandmother who had passed away. She came in very strongly. I saw Divine Mother, Virgin Mary, come in. And when she held my hand, I had this bolt of lightning come through. And it really shocked me. And I was terrified at that moment. The facilitator was telling me it's fine. It's completely normal. I was going there just for healing my emotional body, healing my emotional mind, not being very negative or depressed. I didn't have any of those intentions because I never understood or believed I have those abilities. And then fast forward, I started going into doing different types of oracle card readings, tarot card readings. And I thought that I was just reading cards until a few times I was able to just close my eyes and channel information. And life scripting came that way because I wanted to teach what I had learned over the years from all the books that I've read, very little courses that I have done. I mean, I know many people have done way more than I have. I've done rebirthing breathwork training, pranic healing training, Reiki. I hadn't done much, but I still wanted to teach because I come from a teaching background. I've been teaching since I was 19, English as a second language for adults. But then suddenly I just sat down, I meditated, and I said, the divine needs to tell me, what do I need to teach? And I got the name Life Scripting. And suddenly I just had this list of things of what I need to teach, which is where the 4 principles came in: breath, energy, intuition, and words. It was the combination of all those 4 and what energy you connect to, which is where the Akashic Records also came in. I've never studied Akashic Records. Again, it was just a name that I discovered back in 2017. And I didn't realize that I was connecting to it most of the time. So yeah, that's the shortest version of the experience.
I mean, that's amazing. I mean, and the good part is that you trusted yourself. Like, you just went in and asked, and, you know, that's a powerful knowing. I mean, you had your teaching ability. Didn't you study, like, did you study that in college? Did you go to school for teaching or no?
Yes, I did. So I did my BA in English literature, and then I did all my teacher trainings in the UK. So I was teaching mostly in the Middle East. I've always loved teaching, but that wasn't my main intention when I was young. I wanted to be a psychologist or an interior designer, very extreme things.
Yep.
But I realized that I have the ability to teach. And obviously, when I learned the tools of teaching, I discovered how people learn, how people comprehend information. And especially, I was always fascinated with adults more than children, because you see, children are more like a sponge, right? But as adults, we have this rigidity within us. And to teach someone who's in their 30s, 40s, 50s, or even in their 60s, where they have to learn a new language because they're either forced because of work, professionally they need to do that, or they need to immigrate. So it was fascinating to see how you're going to deal with adults, where you have to be kind, understanding, and pass that information to them, and for them to be able to absorb and then be able to practice it. So that is one of the things that I enjoyed doing mostly. And then fast forward, I started my first life scripting training in 2019, September, where I was excited to finally teach this type of information.
Yeah, well, you had great results, obviously. So when you have that, then you automatically want to teach it, because then people are probably asking you, are you going to teach this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's one of my most energizing and favorite things to do.
Yeah. And, you know, I love when you said you love psychology and you wanted to be an interior designer. So with psychology, you're redesigning people. And then with psychology, with interior design, you're redesigning the physical environment. So with what you're doing here, you're doing it all: the mental, spiritual, physical, emotional.
True.
I mean, it's interesting how you did cooperate. You did sort of put them together and manage to have that happen in your own way, you know. So that's fascinating. So all right. So you talk about life scripting can help you vibrate higher. So how does that come through? How does that work?
So I believe that we all have a different way to access the divine, and we have a different way to raise our vibration. I don't believe there's only one way, which is what made me have those 4 principles, or I was guided to have those 4 principles. So people can raise their vibration through life scripting, number one, by first of all accessing the Akashic Records. So the Akashic Records is the soul's blueprint. It's the powerhouse of information, where all our soul contracts, all our memories, ancestors, ascended masters, they all reside there. And when you're able to access that frequency, naturally your vibration has to go higher. So your consciousness starts to go higher as well. So that is one of the ways of just by learning to, let's say, meditate and access and then come back and ground. Then there is a more of a stronger version of that, where we are doing conscious connected breathing in the Akashic Records, by accessing the Akashic Records and keeping that breath connected for a minimum of 20 minutes. What happens is your cellular memory starts to also be active in that, and you start to release a lot of, let's say, cellular memory blueprints that shouldn't be there, blockages, traumas that have affected your physical body, and of course, past life memories, which can influence us in this physical body. The gentler version would be using energy activation. So energy activations comes from the technique of sacred activation, which I learned from Tamara Oviet back in 2017. That was one of my fastest experiences of how energy can transform you, because I had done different energy healing modalities in the past, but it used to take a long period of time. You would need a lot of activity, a lot of handwork as well. What I loved about sacred activations is it's verbal command. And that's what I've adjusted it and shifted it to energy activations in life scripting, where by sending a very direct command into someone's energy field by saying things like, we're now activating, let's say, your sacred power, or we're activating your abundance energy. And then by deactivating the things that you don't want, like deactivating beliefs such as I'm not enough, deactivating an emotion such as anger. And what's fascinating is people start to feel, one of the most common things they feel is a spinning effect. So their crown chakra starts to spin, which means there is a sense of download, right? That's taking place. Intuition can raise people's vibration. I teach people how to be more intuitive, but it's not, again, a very rigid practice. Like you have to do 1, 2, 3, 4 to be intuitive, because I didn't do that in the first place, right? It helps people to start to listen, to be more clairaudient, to be more clairsentient by accessing the Akashic or accessing 0 point. I like to use the word 0 point for, which is a similar term for the central sun or the 12th dimension. And finally, the power of words, I believe that's the most practical one, which is using statements of affirmations, different forms of using affirmations, whether it's writing them down, which is the most common thing that people do, whether it is repeating like a mantra for a certain period of time, or listening to it over and over again. But the thing is, with affirmations, although there's so many beautiful, positive statements out there, it might not impact a person if you're not using the right one that's going to penetrate their subconscious mind, right? They might hear all these beautiful things and the subconscious would be saying, no, I don't agree, I disagree, that's not for me. So you actually have to find what is the right one for each person. And it doesn't have to be many. It can be maybe 1 to 3 or maximum 5. And that goes really deep into their being, into their knowing that this is the right statement and this is what I need to vibrate by saying those certain phrases. So yeah, there's so many ways. And when I meet clients, based on what I pick up from their energy, I would recommend which route for us to take, rather than, no, there's a one fixed way and that's only how you can raise your vibration.
That's powerful. I mean, and you figured this all out yourself. You created this yourself.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm still surprised by it, because I mean, of course, the human mind sometimes can doubt it, but obviously by experience and practice, every time when I was doing the work on others and I would see the results, that's when I was like, okay, I can now actually break it down of what's actually going on. Because before I didn't have, let's say, a blueprint for it. I would just intuitively fully guide. I still do that, but now we have more of a like a construction of how you have to build this on.
A little more of a formula, kind of.
Yes.
Yeah. So can you give us an example of someone that's had like an amazing transformation with life scripting?
Oh, wow. I have to keep those in mind.
So well, don't tell me, if there's anything, if it's easy, if it is, if it isn't, then
well, I can share from the recent ones what's been going on, which is quite fascinating. So I have something called a 7-day distance healing energy activation process. So everyone receives every day at 7 a.m. in the morning. This is a group distance healing that based on a topic. So we had in February, was it in February or March? Yeah, February was the prosperity one. And so what happens is they receive daily emails from me, which I give them certain statements that they need to recite, affirmations, and certain daily practices that they need to do. Plus, I'm doing the energy work for them. So I have their consent. They know what energy work I'm going to be doing. what was amazing was I had a few stories. So I keep getting messages on a regular basis. One of them was a friend of mine, and he was trying to manifest to work for Cartier.
Okay.
And that is completely out of his reach, in a sense that he's not part of the team. He doesn't know anyone like that. And then on day 3, he got a call from Cartier that they're launching the newest product, and they need someone for 2 weeks to help the VIPs look at the venue, etc. And they had given him a certain amount just in a short period of time. So he had manifested that huge amount of money just coming from the 3rd day. And then another person sent me a message that they got their unexpected bonus of the year happening in that same week. Yeah, this is one of the most common ones I remember. That was the strongest one. And then another friend had received a new project. So I had a few friends and clients joining. So we were about 45 people who the energy was being sent to. And so the other friend was expecting a project abroad, and they called her out of the blue saying that we want you next month for this such and such. So it was fascinating to see that this is even that they're not necessarily face-to-face attending a session. They've just given their consent. They know what energies is going to be running for them. They are doing their daily practices, which is maximum 15 minutes a day. Okay. I break them down throughout the day with affirmations, with things like energizing and activating the water that they drink, having showers at night with salt and water to ground them, and let's say journaling, reflections. So this is just the energetic part of life scripting, and with working with the Akashic records. And we already saw those results within those 7 days already.
Wow. So is that something you do on a monthly basis?
Yes, yes. So I started it last year in August, and I thought I was just going to do it once. Again, it was just an idea that came through. And then I realized people are enjoying this. And, you know, we live in a very fast-paced world right now, and people do want quick fixes. Although I don't believe there are ever any shortcuts, but we are blessed to be at a time that we can do things. We can accelerate our vibrational energy. We can accelerate our ascension way faster than ever before. So why not use that, right?
Absolutely. And if you believe you can, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, I love that. So this is an ongoing thing. So people can sign up for the 7 days specifically.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
Good to know. So, all right. So when you talked about when people have an Akashic record reading, does that automatically raise their vibration when they're investigating their Akashic records? Does that already start their acceleration?
Yes, definitely. Because before I start to give any readings, the first 2 to 3 minutes, I would be guiding them into their Akashic.
Right.
And this naturally opens up their energy, helps them to be connected to their higher self. And obviously, I am the one channeling the information, but for them to be open, to be receptive, it changes something in their energy field. They become more open. I can see for some people, their Kundalini starts to rise. Their manifestation abilities start to become easier and faster, although it's not under the healing process, right? They're just receiving guidance. So I believe, because I've asked this question a few times to my guides and their guides, like, how is it that people are not receiving healing per se, but something is changing after a reading? And the information is just simply the connection. It's like having those antennas open up. And the more you do that, the more you are opening up the crown chakra, the higher crown chakra, and you're being this vessel and opening yourself to receive. As you said, if you believe it, you can do it, then it's going to happen, right? So it's also adding that added benefit to it.
That's really good to know. I think it's fascinating for people to hear that, because I have just started to do Akashic record reading work myself the last couple of years, and I was never really guided before, but all of a sudden I have to do this.
Amazing.
You know, then I found you, and I was just blown away what you bring through. It's incredible. So also, what do you do when you feel low? Like you say, people can feel low and they can vibrate low. So what do you do for them?
For me, the easiest fix is shower. I love the element of water. I think it's one of the fastest ways to cleanse our energy. If you have access to water, you just dip yourself in it. Just standing under the water that is flushing and all those energies, the stagnant energies. If I have a very long day from work, that's the first thing I do. I rush home and I stand under the shower. The second thing I would do is I would do connected breathing, because what happens in a connected breathing process is the front chakras and the back chakras, they start to get connected. And what I like to call the washing machine effect happens. So you're starting to tumble. So nothing gets really stuck or stagnant. And if it is, you would feel it. The only thing with conscious connected breathing is people should know how to do it. So I can share a small exercise if you like, so that people can do it on a day-to-day basis. Okay, so it's a technique called 20 connected breathing, and you are inhaling and exhaling through the nose without any pauses or any gaps. There are 4 fast breaths, and the 5th one is long and deep. So of course I'm going to demonstrate it, and we do it 4 times, which will equal to 20. So it's something like this. So that was 20 breaths. Now, what happens is, it's a quick indicator to know if you have been vibrating low, because usually, how do you indicate if someone's vibrating low? Their emotional levels are on the low, right? So they're either feeling afraid, angry, sad, etc. So what this does is, we have been unconsciously programmed since our birth that whenever we feel any kind of pain or discomfort, we inhibit the breath. That's the first thing we do. So if you notice someone who is in pain or is angry, they're not breathing. They're just probably turning red, right? So what happens is, when we are having that low vibration, once you do this connected breathing, it starts to circulate. And if you have been inhibiting, then you would have either a minor headache quickly come in, or you would start to yawn, or you would start to feel lightheaded. Now, the aim is for you not to feel any of these. That's why the more you practice this on a regular basis, you're kind of like high. It is, you can become high just by this. And since in the breathwork world, there are so many misconceptions from the term of hyperventilation, this is not any form of hyperventilation, simply because we are not forcing the exhale, and we are not forcing the breath. So when you exhale either through the nose or through the mouth excessively, like in that manner, or with the mouth you're blowing, then this causes an imbalance in your O2 and CO2, and it creates a discomfort in the brain, and medically it can be termed as hyperventilation. But this one, the aim is not to do that, to keep it gentle and just to keep it connected. So if people can do this by sitting down or lying down, so that was just 120 breath, one round of 20 breathing. If they can do 5, 6, 7, then they would feel that something is moving. Obviously, it's not recommended while they're driving or riding or running or walking, right? It is a strong, quick fix, I would have to say.
That's amazing. I love that. I always wonder, because I know a lot of times I will breathe in through my nose when I'm doing my own grounding, as I did earlier with you, and go out my mouth. But that was only 3 times. It's very simple. But when I did yoga breath, like it's not quite yoga breath, but kind of like it. You're always touching your nostril, and then you're going in and out one side, then you do the other. So that's fascinating, because I love the simplicity. So you're making it so simple. That's what people need. Like you say, we're living in a society that everything's a quick fix, kind of. And, I don't care how old you are. We all kind of like those nowadays.
True.
And with computers, we've had things happen that way. Everything's so quick when you can access things. And So you're making it beautifully quick with the breathing method, which I love that. So I think that's going to help a lot of people to just clear, because you're right. When people get nervous or upset, we hold our breath. I do. I'm like, I'm not even breathing. And you think you're naturally always breathing, but we're not. No, we hold our breath. And then you're like, oh, wow. All of a sudden, when you realize it, you kind of go, you kind of relax. Your body goes, oh, thank you for breathing finally.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's so interesting. So I love that. I mean, that was powerful. So thank you for that. So we talk about karma and people being finished with karma. Like they say, all karma is complete. But I've also heard people say we can create instant karma with the way we treat people right now. Is that true? Can we really, well, first of all, can we really let go of karma? Or, and is it true that we are manifesting it if we start something new? How do you see that?
Okay, I love this question. It's one of my favorite.
Oh, good.
So I think, so I've tried to research a lot about karma, again, through reading books and reading a lot of ancient books about it, esoteric practices, and intuitively asking this question. So answering your first question, can we clear our karma? We definitely can. But I don't think it's as simple as the logical mind would think it is. Like, okay, I've decided that this is my last incarnation. Great. So then if that's the case, so that's a conscious thought, right? That's a conscious decision, conscious command, then I wouldn't know, even when I say that, I wouldn't know how much still I have left in my karmic, let's say, bank for me to exhaust that, right? Which is what happens. And I think this is what can also be termed as the dark night of the soul. When someone goes into this extreme low experience, a lot of detachment needs to take place. Some people are aware of it, some are not. And that is a way of burning your karma, right? So we can do that, but it's not
wait a minute.
clear cut.
When you said burning your karma, you mean, so what do you mean by that exactly?
So that means that, so when you're burning your karma means if you have anything pending. So let's say, let's break it down to an interaction. So if you have in another lifetime, and of course we do need to believe to some level that we have past lives when we're talking about karma, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not everybody, of course, but we do. You and I
exactly, do. Exactly. So let's say if in a past life I've, in a very extreme example, I killed someone, right? So, and in this lifetime, I'm this very kind, loving person. Now, just because I'm kind and loving person, it doesn't mean that my past karma has been already erased. I need to go through an experience for me to neutralize that. So what can happen is I might end up experiencing a lot of emotional abuse, maybe physical abuse, maybe a lot of mental abuse. And obviously we always question why me? Why is this happening to me? I haven't done anything to anyone, right? So in order for us to burn that, that means to neutralize it. One of the most common practices that has been told in any spiritual practice or religious practice is forgiveness. So we first have to forgive ourselves, and then we have to forgive the person in front of us. And naturally, that starts to create more of a loving effect, right? So you don't try to create revenge. You don't try to do something to the other person.
Right.
So if you are not vibrating at that same level of that person who's trying to harm you in this incarnation, then you are reversing, because it's like bouncing energies off of each other, right? If someone's hurting me and then I want to think of hurting them back, then we're just going
it's just a
forward
circle.
and backwards.
It's a circle of karma,
and we're stuck in
it's a loop. Yeah,
exactly. So if I am aware of that and I start to drop the question of why is this happening? Yeah, just because you can dig, you can do past life regression, you can do clearings, etc. But at the end of the day, it reaches to a point that, okay, knowing more about it is not necessarily going to fix it. You do need to change your action, your reaction to it. And forgiveness is the first act that we need to do. It's, of course, easier said than done in most cases. but I always say that we first need to forgive ourselves because we have allowed this experience to happen. There is some kind of a repay that is taking place, and it's not a punishment. It's just we need to balance it out. And then we end up forgiving the other person, forgiving people. So if we want to jump ahead in our timeline, what I also like to do is forgive any possible experiences in the future that is going to come to me. So you see, what we're doing here is we're jumping a little bit ahead. We are focusing on the now by clearing the current situation, but we're also saying, okay, because sometimes we've all experienced this. We might have a difficult person or a situation in our life.
Yeah.
Once that's over, we're like, great, I'm fully free from it. And then maybe it comes in a different form again, right?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And that means, I mean, it can be very complex in a sense of maybe we have someone else that we need to deal with, or we need to, let's say, experience it in a different manner. So the point here is, let's forgive ourselves, forgive the person in front of us, and forgive any future possible reactions and outcomes for it. And this is what we start to do by burning and clearing or neutralizing our karma. Did that answer your first question?
That's amazing. I mean, that makes so much sense. And that's so much clarity because, I mean, you hear about karma, but the way you explained it, it makes perfect sense. And I hope everybody's really, learning a lot from this. Thank you. That was beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank you. What was the second question you were saying?
The second question is, so like you said, so when you can say old karma is complete is really when you can neutralize it. A current person that you sort of see, there's something going on, and then you have to learn. I mean, you have to work through forgiving yourself, number one, as you said, and forgiving that person. And I love the future forgiveness. That is like a key that I haven't heard yet. That is a really great understanding. So now I have also heard that, can we create instant karma right now? Like, suppose, all right, are we done with karma now? We've neutralized it, so that's complete with that particular person.
Yes.
There's always more than one, I'm sure, that we have to work there, but that could be your key karma that you have. Is there a key karma? Like, that's another question. Is there a key actual karma experience that you're meant to, neutralize?
I believe so. I've met a few astrologers, both Western astrology and Vedic astrology. And one of the things that I've learned from them is when they look at your chart and they say, look, in this lifetime, you have this challenge and you have to learn to overcome this challenge. Okay. That is what, and it's one of the toughest ones. So whenever they say that, whether we're channeling it through astrology or through Akashic records, it's the toughest one that we have to deal with because we have this deep intrinsic reaction to situation that we are supposed to not have, and then we have to be very conscious of it not to. This can be addictions, this can be any kind of toxic behavior that we might have, any kind of repetitive emotion that we have. Like, for example, anger. Someone might say, I'm an angry person most of the time, or I need anger management. So this is not just because someone is stressed. I mean, we try to simplify it that way, but it's not always that simple, right?
Okay, that's awesome. So now this instant karma now. So we've done that part. I understand what you just said. And then we can create now what about this instant karma with the way we treat people?
So as long as we're alive, as long as we're in a body, we're constantly creating karma because we are having an action and a reaction. I think that these masters who live by the mountains, who don't interact with anyone, one of the reasons of their seclusion is they're not generating karma because they don't have that human interaction. Sure. It's between them and the divine. And that is one of the things that many spiritual practices do, right? It's like trying to seclude yourself doesn't mean that's the only way again, or that's a must, but they end up secluding themselves so they don't have that ongoing experience. Yeah. And in many spiritual practices, they say that, let's say a teacher would tell the disciple that, okay, you're no longer going to stay in my energy field. You have to go and build a family, live in society. that's where you really actually have to live and see if you've mastered the teachings that you have been taught, right? So
yes.
instant karma is, as long as you're breathing, as long as you're alive, you are creating karma, which is what being conscious is really all about. Every single action reaction has some level of a ripple effect in our life, whether it's minor or it's major.
Yeah. And, you know, these are such fine points that we're talking about, but, you know, they're so important to even understand. Like for me, this is so much great clarity. And I hope everyone else is getting the same, because I find that we need this. We need this because there's such, when you're trying to move into your higher frequencies, it's a muddled road, you know, unless you're really reaching out a lot to people. And this will really help everyone to understand their work and how they have to, you know, proceed to raise their vibration. So when people say karma is finished, that is not a truth.
No, I don't think
Good.
so.
Well, that's cool.
Because we have the choice to recreate it, right? As long as we have free will, as you mentioned in our beautiful grounding meditation today, we are constantly in a free will vibration. Yes. So we can recreate it if we want, and that level of mastery we all need to strive for still.
So everything you just talked about is a way to get to self-mastery. So how do you see self-mastery? Is there any other way we can talk about it? How would you see it?
Self-mastery, to define it easily, is being conscious as much as you can on a day-to-day basis. You're aware of your thoughts, you're aware of your emotions. That doesn't mean you can control them, but you're aware of them.
Right.
So for example, I'm driving and someone cuts through and I get angry. Right? If I get angry, but I'm aware that I got angry, and I'm aware that I don't want to keep this anger with me for the next 1-2 hours or the next few days, and I don't want to cut over them, you know, so creating that, oh, why did you do this? Oh, you, and I name some negative words to the other
flipping the famous, you know, finger that everyone tends
exactly
to do, right? A lot of people, you know, it's either the peace sign now or, you know, a wave, you know, sorry, you know.
Exactly. True. So if you're conscious and say, okay, I just got angry. All right, get it out of. I don't want to keep this. I usually tell people is, especially now that we're in this trend, I call it a trend. Spirituality has become a trend. Unfortunately, it's not always authentic. And people are always trying to be so positive, and, you know, unfortunately the word love and light, as much as it's beautiful, can be sometimes tainted.
I've had enough of that one myself.
Exactly. The thing is, having emotions or having unhealthy thoughts does not mean that, oh, I'm now creating you know, a downward spiral in my life. The problem is that we all have is we hold on to them, and it stays with us for hours, days, weeks, and months. And if we don't hold on to it and we're able to clear it out of the way consciously, not in a sense like, oh, I feel very upset, I need to clear that right now, otherwise my vibration will go low. That's a sense of panic. You're not honoring the emotion. You first realize it. You say, okay, I know I'm having this emotion right now. Is it really worth keeping that in my system? Do I really still need to be angry at X, Y, Z? And when you come into the realization that it's really not necessary, it's just a passing experience. We are mirrors. It is a dualistic reality anyway. And when those thoughts are naturally overlapping the other thoughts of like, no, I need to show this person who I really am, etc., then I think we are naturally getting directed towards self-mastery. That's how I see it. And that's what I intend to teach when I teach life scripting to people.
Yeah. Oh, wow. You're bringing in some amazing awakening moments here. I mean, it's just so powerful what you're talking about. So, you know, if you're working with somebody who you thought was toxic in your life, and you've just decided, you know, you've tried to reconnect with them, you've tried to work it through, you've gone back and forth more than once with this person, but your last encounter was totally toxic again. and you decided you just have to let go of that person. I mean, that's a healthy way of treating it, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have to think for ourselves first, right? It's not about being selfish, because if you're not going to exist, if you're not going to vibrate well, then what's the point? If you're going to sacrifice yourself, lower your emotions, lower your vibration, you're not helping yourself and you're not helping the people around you. And it can be very harsh, it can be very challenging, but some people just don't want to change in this incarnation, in this lifetime. They want to be under the, let's say, title or label of being toxic or vibrating low or complaining all the time. That is still a necessary learning for them. That is still, or maybe at this point in time, we don't know until their last breath what's going to happen. Some people might have an epiphany in their last breath. Some people might have it 10 years before they're passing. We really don't know. And sometimes I tell people, we can't fully judge and confirm a situation until someone has completely lived their life, because we're just looking at a portion of it, and that's a very tiny portion of that. But if it is unhealthy and we've tried to raise our vibration, we've learned from it, we've tried to assist them and they still can't get it, then walking away is healthier for both.
Yeah, I love that. I think that helps people hear that too. You know, I've had to, I mean, they keep talking, you hear people say right now, it's important to decide, is this the group of people you want around you? Do you want this person around you? If you don't feel good around that person, if you're not feeling like any, I mean, they don't always have to support you, but it's just a nice, you feel even with them. It's like a neutral, balanced relationship where there's not, like, you don't feel, I don't know what the word would be, you know, battered on or you know,
or burdened by them.
Yeah, uncomfortable. Like, oh no, they always make me feel so not so great, you know. That's a sign that these aren't the best people to be around. And they may not necessarily be toxic, but they're not for you. They're just not the people that work for you. So we have to make those decisions. And I think that's also part of self-mastery, wouldn't it be?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Because you end up having discernment to know who needs to stay in your life and who shouldn't.
So that's where I love that. Can you brought in one of the words that's been floating around for the past 3 years, discernment, which is very important. It's just very key to know, to discern your life and what you need to have, who and what you need to have in it. So how do you see humanity rising? Do you see us rising? Where do you see we're at?
We are rising, but I'm also seeing both extremes happening simultaneously. So it's like this, this extreme duality taking place, but at the same time, if we had to weigh it out, there is more of a higher frequency taking place every single moment, every single day. And this is why I think so many previous premonitions or predictions, people like Nostradamus or any kind of, psychics, is not 100% playing out simply because we are shifting so fast. I mean, this happens sometimes even in a very minor level with my sessions, in my readings. Let's say if I'm giving someone a reading, sometimes when I'm looking at the full year, and I have certain individuals that they are constantly on the healing path, they're constantly shifting their vibration. It ends up compressing. So what needs to happen in a year for them, it happens in a matter of 6 months. So what does that tell us? That means people are accelerating at a faster speed than they have before. So I don't see there is anything sad or depressing or worrying about us as humanity. I believe that every single second, like you were talking about instant karma, things can change, but the level of awareness is rising so much that it's highly, highly, highly unlikely for us to dip lower than we ever have. I think that we've seen so much low in our human history in the, let's say, thousands of years that we've existed. So I don't think we're going to go any worse than we already have.
Oh, that's good. So we've already hit what they call a bottom. We've hit the low bottom. We're not going to go below that bottom anymore. reached that level. We're going to stay above it, which means we are moving up. We are, shifting. Even those who choose not to do maybe that level of work in this lifetime. But then there are the others that are, like you say. I love that you say that you can compress that year. That is so true. That makes so much sense to me that you can do that. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? And so I know you have some kind of life scripting cards. And how do those work? Those sounded really interesting.
So life scripting cards came about in 2021. And so I have about 25 decks that I've collected over the years, Oracle decks, angel decks. I gave up my tarot cards back in 2007 and 8 because number one, I didn't know how to use them properly. And I think I was using a lot of unconscious dark energy. So it didn't end up working well. So I gave them away. So I wanted to create something that would empower people without necessarily knowing much about the angelic realm, knowing much about the ascended masters, or not only limiting them to affirmations. It was one of the fascinating experiences because I got the vision that I want it to be a sacred geometric symbol on every single card. And then I just sat down, I said, give me the numbers. I don't have time. I don't want to waste my time. Just tell me, what do I need to do? Let's do it fast.
Nice.
And I got the number 44, and they said you divide it into 4 categories of your 4 principles. So a section, 10 cards, am I being correct? 11, sorry, of breath, 11 of intuition, 11 energy, and 11 words, right? And I just sat on my computer and literally in 30 minutes, I was able to channel the information that had to be on the cards. It doesn't have a thick manual of like we usually see in the Oracle cards. It just has an A4 manual with it where there is a statement that everyone will recite once they receive it so they can energize it properly. So they receive the highest level of truth. And then there are ways of how to spread the cards, which is like 1 or 3 or 6 or 12, like looking at the full year. And then also just looking at what principle is being put there, gazing at the sacred geometric symbol for them to access a higher dimension, reading a small paragraph of those cards where it gives them an understanding where they are. And the number at the bottom, that was the interesting part. And many people love that. The number at the bottom, if it's an even number, the answer for their question is a yes. And if it's an odd number, the answer for their question is a no. And we've trialed it so many times, and it's so bluntly straightforward to some people, but it has been accurate all the time. And it's fascinating how you keep on picking up the same cards over and over again for certain questions, even if you've shuffled them many times. So it helps people to be empowered and to access their intuitive abilities.
Those are fascinating. I saw that. I love cards myself. You know, it's interesting what you said about tarot cards. I don't really read them myself, but I did buy a deck. And then I started hearing, well, if you don't know what you're doing with them, you will bring in energies that you may not want. And I'm thinking, I don't like that stuff because I don't know much about them. So maybe I need to give mine away now. So that's a good thought, you know, because I have a ton of decks, but none of them, I have one tarot, and I was like, how am I going to learn how to read tarot? I don't have time to read tarot and to figure it out at this point. It's not really a top of my list of needs. So that's another thing. If you have any of these decks in your house, I think if you don't use it, then we need to let them go. So it's powerful.
Absolutely. I gave them away to someone. I remember I gave them away to someone who was an astrologer, and he didn't know about tarot cards. I had 2 decks. Literally, I had the 2 classical decks. A friend of mine had had gotten them for me from the UK. And I gave it to him, and he's now a tarot reader. It's his path. He does that. And he has found success in it. So it's his path. 2 weeks ago, when I was in London, I went into one of my favorite shops. It's called the Astrology Shop. It exists since 1988. I always go and visit. I think the owner, I can assume who the owner is because he's been there all these years. He just sits there. And I was like, okay, I need to buy a new deck of cards. And I was like, okay, shall I get a tarot one? Come on, maybe it's now the time. Maybe my energy's changed. And then I just picked one and it just fell from my hand. I was like, oh, okay, it shouldn't be this. I said, but I want a new deck of cards. And then I got drawn to this one called the Avalon card. So and I was just fascinated by it. What gave me goosebumps was after I bought the deck of cards, I remember it very well. It was on the 3rd of April. And I had the full moon group session on the 4th or 5th of April. And when I gave the group session, I always give a reading as well, like a group reading. And I chose to use that deck on that day. I shuffled it, I prayed on it, I gave the reading. Once we were done, I read the manual after that, and it said it's ideal to start using this deck of cards on a full moon. And that was on the full moon. And the other thing, and this was again fascinating, I wanted to go to Glastonbury on this trip. I still haven't been to Glastonbury. Every time I get guided to go there. And although I had heard what Avalon was, when I was reading the deck, it was all channeled from Glastonbury. So I didn't go there, but the deck of cards came to me and I just got goosebumps. I just love it. I can't wait to use it more now.
Yeah, I love that. I do love that. I have been to Glastonbury. I went there last time I was in England and it was fabulous. You know, we walked up to the tour, TOR, the tour, and you know, I just knew there was energy there. I could see things around the tour that was there in the past. It was so much information. And I didn't get to the Mary Magdalene Chapel, which I was very disappointed because I didn't realize, I actually didn't pay attention that it was right there, and I didn't go. But one of our group did go. It was a small group, and she swears she saw Mary Magdalene sitting in the garden because there was a woman in a hooded red outfit.
Wow!
I know.
Wow. I'm having goosebumps.
Me too.
Wow! That's so true.
She saw her. The woman was stunning, of course, and she's looking at her, and she didn't go up to her, but the woman was sitting over on the side, very isolated, you know, quietly, but she just knew that it had to be Mary Magdalene, and she just happened to be there with her partner at the time, and it was just an incredible moment, and then she shared it with us, and I feel like I have the goosebumps as I'm telling you this as well, so it's so powerful. It's so powerful. So thank you. We've really been talking a while, and it's just fabulous information. And thank you for all your insights. And any last words about 2023, what's unfolding? How do you see humanity? How do you think we need to, you know, keep going with raising our frequencies? Anything you can see?
I think less is more at this point for us. Not following so many spiritual teachers. I don't think that's ideal. Because everyone channels different information. I think we all just need to connect to the highest truth. That's what I always say when I'm giving my readings, when I want to ask anything personal for myself, always living on a day-to-day basis by reciting for ourselves, show me the highest truth. Let me live in my highest truth. Let me keep my vibration high. I believe in the power of words a lot. I mean, we are blessed to have language for us to communicate. So let's use it wisely. Let's use the words wisely. Although it's ideal to feel the words as well, but not everyone can do that at the early stage, but still using the right words, the words that have higher vibrational frequency to it, or as we can call them, as positive. So whatever we're doing, whether we're walking, we're running, we're cooking, we're showering, let's be conscious of our thoughts. Let's just say phrases, words, statements that is of what we want. And sometimes even if it's not an affirmation, let it just be a word. Higher vibration, truth, love, light, experience of consciousness, and discernment. I think that's our favorite word, right? Having more discernment this year and in the coming years, because there is false energies, false light, always there trying to inhibit our journey. Unfortunately, that's that's what duality is.
Yes.
So not to fall into that, just because someone has hundreds and thousands of followers, just because someone has so many events or is teaching something, we just don't blindly go and do that. We've done that as a civilization for thousands of years. We don't need to do that anymore.
Yeah, we've learned a lot in the past 3 years, I think, to
Yeah.
know better than to just do that anymore.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That is beautiful what you shared. Thank you. And my other favorite word is resilience. I see that we're so resilient. I mean, you can be very discerning, and then once you discern something, you can be resilient with that and bring yourself back, like you're saying, use those words. Those words, that's such a powerful statement. I love that. I love that so much. So I know that you have a gift, a free, a special gift for the audience. Would you like to tell us about it?
Yes. So I would like to give a yearly reading for the first 3 people who will like to join. It's going to be a 30-minute Akashic Records reading. This is on Zoom, and you will have it recorded so you can re-listen to it over and over again. You'll get an idea of what every single month has for you that is about to come. And I'm very excited to share that and give people guidance so that they can know what path they're on, what is their purpose, what do they really need to know right now, and to just keep them more in their sacred power.
And I will tell you, if you should jump on that right away, because it is the most amazing reading you're going to have, because I had one and it was incredible. Thank you so much for that. That is a very generous and amazing gift. And is there anything else you're offering? I can't remember.
So whoever would like to receive a live scripting session, they can join and receive all those 1-hour sessions for them. And we are offering them a 15% off for whoever would like to register. And that can involve live scripting, breathwork, live scripting, Akashic Records healing. So it will depend on what the energy of the person needs, and they will just experience that. All they need to do is have a good set of headsets so they can listen my voice while I guide them through the healing. And it can be about any topic that they want to work on.
And that's an unlimited number. As many people as they choose can sign up for that. So yes, that is absolutely great. I may be trying one of those because I haven't done a live scripting with you yet. That would be so. Thank you so much. That is so beautiful and generous of you, and very valuable. I will tell everybody. So I want to thank all the audience who's listening. We really appreciate you coming on and listening, and you know, everything that Maria has shared has been incredibly valuable information today. So please, we love your comments. We love your feedback. If you ever want to share something, please send it to me or to Maria. We will make sure she hears what you say. And Maria, I want to thank you so much for your unbelievable, insightful teachings and brilliant uncovering ways that you help people reach their higher frequencies and their spiritual mastery, because you are really pointing everyone towards spiritual mastery with everything you're doing. I can feel it and I can hear it. And I've learned already through what my readings with you, how much, you know, I gained just in that reading information. And I see you as the perceptive sage and sensitive sage. You are such a, you allow your intuition and your higher self to guide you so much in your teachings. And it's so powerful. And that's such a wonderful, inspiring example to all of us. So
thank you. Likewise, it's such an honor. Thank you for trusting me and allowing me for this. It's a blessing for me.
For all of us, we all, it's shared and we're receiving very, very thankfully. So I want to say thank you again. And the divine human is rising, and we hold unlimited potential and gifts as we create our new earth realities. Thank you again, Maria, for your courage to step into your owning your divine light. And as we raise our heart's frequency, know that we are nourished with the love of the universe. And I am Yarra Atlantica Miller, also known as Janet Miller, and I will see you on the next episode.